The National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa is the latest organization to join growing calls of discontent as the Constitutional Court decided to grant the killer of Chris Hani parole. That's Janusz Walus, and they are blaming the ANC-led administration for that decision. According to Numsa, the ANC refused to transform the economy and judiciary, which disadvantaged the working class. We're now joined by Phakamile Hlubi Majola, who speaks for the organization. Phakamile, thank you very much for joining us this morning. You note in an article that you have penned that there are many who feel betrayed by the decision of the Constitutional Court. However, we must not allow ourselves to be misled about who is responsible for this situation. Who is responsible?
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers, and thank you so much for having me on the show. Indeed, I think it's very important that South Africans must not allow their pain and their justified anger over this to blind them to the truth of how we got here. We felt as a trade union that we had to express our dismay about the decision by the Constitutional Court to grant Comrade Chris Hani's killer parole. But we have to be clear about who's responsible. And the ANC government brought us here. They're responsible for the decision that took place at the Constitutional Court. What we are experiencing is the ultimate betrayal of the ANC government. And we say this as Numsa because what that decision reflects is just how untransformed South African society is many, many years after Comrade Chris was assassinated. His legacy, his battles, and what he fought and died for, and what millions of South Africans in this country fought and died for, which was genuine, meaningful transformation for the majority of people, has not been achieved. And it was emphasized when those judges decided to grant his killer parole, and this is happening under the dispensation of the governing ANC.
You have also noted that there are millions of families in this country who are forced to live with gaping wounds from the pain they suffered from the deaths and disappearances of their loved ones under apartheid. You also say there's no hope, or you believe there's no hope, that there is a will to actually sort this out as well?
Oh, absolutely. And I think this is why this feels like such an intense betrayal. As African people in this country, we've been betrayed on many levels. We've been betrayed in terms of the fact that the South African economy remains completely untransformed. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange, as we speak, only 2% of the companies on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange are 100% black-owned. The fact that when you look at the EE statistics, employment equity statistics, and you look at the transformation in terms of representation of black people in executive management at the highest level, we are barely represented there. The statistics are very low. And then on top of that, we've been betrayed in terms of the fact that thousands, millions of families in this country are still in pain over what they went through under apartheid. There have been very few people who've been arrested for what the UN described as a crime against humanity. Literally a handful of people. De Kock being one of them, Eugene de Kock, Janusz Walus being another, and perhaps a few others, but certainly nothing in the scale of what we expected. If you compare, for example, how far the Jewish community has gone in prosecuting those who were responsible for the great crime of genocide, we needed that kind of energy, and we certainly don't have that in South Africa. And if after 28 years of rule by a black government, we still have not experienced genuine justice along those lines from the National Prosecuting Authority, why should families still have hope that would change? You know, I mean, as you yourself know, the longer it takes for you to ensure that people are brought to book, evidence is found so people can be prosecuted, justice delayed is justice denied. So it's very clear that there's no political will on the side of the NPA to give black people in this country justice. And this is why the release of Hani's killer is so painful, because that pain is against that backdrop of knowing that when it comes to the fact that apartheid crimes, black people have yet to receive justice. What is also painfully ironic is that you have members of the Azanian People's Liberation Army who even now are languishing behind bars. Some of them have been denied parole under this black government. And yet Chris Hani's killer has been granted parole. And this is why we're saying that this decision is reflective of the society that we live in today, where South Africa has failed to actually meet its transformation agenda and improve the lives of the black majority who paid the highest price under apartheid and had genuine hopes that the ANC government, when it was voted into power, would use its power to ensure that the majority of people's lives improved as a result.
You have questioned what you call a bourgeoisie constitution, which you believe will offer little hope in transforming society for the benefit of the working class. We are made to believe that South Africa's constitution is one of the best in the world, no?
It's the best in the world if you're thinking about it in terms in bourgeois terms. If this is a constitution that's designed to entrench the power of the minority, then yes, it's a great constitution. Is this really a constitution that works for the masses? And I think black South Africans have the right to ask that question. It's our constitution after all. And if we feel that this constitution is not working for us, we should exercise our democratic right to change it so that it starts to reflect our wishes, and it starts to actually assist us in transforming our society. We can look at, for example, and again, this would require political will from the political organization that is elected to power. Because if you recall, for example, there was a time when the ANC had an opportunity to use parliament in order to change the laws so that we could receive land justice in this country. Let's not forget that we are a country where land was stolen from black people through the 1913 Land Act. And as a result of that dispossession of land, the black people in South Africa are still marginalized, we're still poor, and until we actually are able to ensure or deal with that injustice and right that wrong, then we are unfortunately going to continue to be poor and to suffer. And we're going to suffer economic inequality. And the ANC had the chance and has had the chance to use its majority in parliament to change the laws so that we can ensure that black people receive land justice in this country, and they refuse to do so. And it's because the ANC is not actually interested in driving an agenda for the majority of people. I mean, just look at what they're doing with state-owned entities, where these SOEs are literally being sold off to the highest bidder as cheaply as possible, and they're not being well maintained for our collective development. We've seen how China has done very well in tapping into state-owned entities and using them to build the economy for the benefit of the majority of people. But because the ANC government is driving a neoliberal agenda, our SOEs are going to be privatized to benefit a handful of individuals so that they can get richer whilst the majority of us continue to get poorer. And these are the decisions that this ANC government continues to take, where every single day they enact policies that empower a wealthy, privileged elite and continue to disempower the African majority. And so this is why we're saying that even this march that took place on Saturday, that was just a distraction so that the majority of people don't take out their anger on who is responsible. They go and they protest at the Constitutional Court as if the judges can do anything at this point. The fact is that if South Africans are angry about what's happening, then we must vote this government out. That's when we're going to start to see changes.
Phakamile Hlubi Majola speaks for Numsa. Thank you very much for availing yourself this morning. Plenty still to come for you when we return.